So thank you so much, Quentin, for allowing me to use your iPad. This lesson is talking about also parallelograms. And what we're going to learn here is to be able to prove if a parallelogram is a special one, like a rectangle, a rhombus, or a square, okay? So now something that you're going to have on the quiz Friday or Monday or Tuesday, whenever you get the quiz, depends on how many people show up on Thursday and so on and so forth. But anyways, what I'm going to do is, as you can see on the properties, on the conditions, go ahead and get a highlighter. Let's go ahead and, I'm going to underline. Pencil, paper, yes. Underline something that is very important. What is very important here is that you can use the following conditions to determine whether a parallelogram, so underline parallelogram or highlight parallelogram, is a rectangle. So in order for you to say that that parallelogram is going to be a rectangle by the following conditions, first you have to say that it's a parallelogram, okay? So the first one, it says, if one angle it's a right angle, then the parallelogram.
Uh-oh. Still running.
Yeah, this is just, okay, so here. So if one angle, which in this case is given here, is a right angle, then the parallelogram, see this little notation here, the little parallelogram symbol, parallelogram, JKLM, is a rectangle. So then first is saying that is a parallelogram. Then if they give you one angle, then you can say that it's a rectangle. But then on the quiz, I can give you something like this. And then I'm going to ask you, what's the best name for that quadrilateral?
Would it be a rectangle? You know, it looks like a square.
Well, it looks like a square, but it's not a square. Why not? Well, it's not a square because they're not telling me that it's a parallelogram. How are they going to tell me that it's a parallelogram?
Do the 6 give values?
Well,
And it's lines on the side.
you need to first of all have those arrowheads, okay, indicating that that quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if they're saying that it's a parallelogram and they just give you an angle that is a right angle, then you can say that it's a rectangle. But it's not a square, it's a rectangle, okay? Yes, Andrew.
Miss, on the quiz, will you give us a question where we had, where they're like saying which is not a parallelogram or?
I'm going to tell you, classify the quadrilateral with the best name, if any. Because some of them might not be any parallelogram or special parallelogram, okay? So you just have to say it's a quadrilateral, period, and that's it. Okay, good question. Okay, so now the second one. On the second one we have, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. Okay, so right here,
That is really cool.
yes, it's like the Star Wars. There you go. Yes. Okay, so if the diagonals of are congruent, so these two are congruent, then the parallelogram is a rectangle. And the same thing here. If I give you something like this, and I'm telling you that this piece is equals to this piece, and just like that, would that be a rectangle? No, I need to have this other piece to be congruent to this piece and to this piece. I need to have all the pieces being congruent because that's the only way where I can say that diagonals are congruent here. Because otherwise, if I didn't have that extra arrowhead here, not arrowhead, but tick marks, if I only have it like that, you know, and I don't have two congruency marks, I only have one congruency mark, like that, then I cannot really say that this is a rectangle because I don't have all the pieces like diagonals bisected each other. Therefore, the pieces, see this right here, is not going to be congruent to this right here. I got to have all those pieces marked congruent like that. Then I can say that this is a rectangle. Okay? Now, on the next item, it says So one pair of consecutive sides are congruent. So if I give you two tick marks just like that, would that make the parallelogram a rhombus? Would that be a rhombus?
Yes.
Yes. Well, if they're stating that this is a parallelogram. But if I just give you the picture, if I just tell you this right here, and then I just say this is congruent to that, is that a rhombus? No, not with the picture like that. What is it that is missing that I need to have so that I can say that is a rhombus?
That it's mean that it's parallel.
That is a parallelogram. So in order for me to make this a parallelogram, I need to have what? The arrows, yes, the arrowheads indicating that they're up, both of them are, let me go back. This is parallel to this. Then you can say that since it's a parallelogram and one pair of sides is congruent, then this is a rhombus. But if it's not stated that it's a parallelogram, you cannot say that this would be a rhombus, okay? And then another one that we have is if diagonals are perpendicular, then the parallelogram is a rhombus. So it's perpendicular means having a right angle where they intersect. And the last one is if one diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles, then the parallelogram, it's a rhombus. Okay, so now let's go over the bottom problem. It says determine whether the conclusion is valid or not. If it's not, then tell what additional information is to be given to make it a valid statement. Do you think that number one, it's a rectangle? Yes. Why is it that it's valid?
Why?
Uh-huh.
Because it has parallel side, opposite pairs are parallel side to parallel at a right angle.
Okay, yes, because it's a parallelogram. And what else is given?
A right angle, one right angle.
One right angle is given. One right angle is given. Okay? And now for the second example. Do you think that picture, MPQR, is a rhombus?
No.
And this is not. How come that's not a rhombus?
It's missing that. Because on all sides are parallel.
It's missing, right, the arrowheads that indicates that it's a parallelogram, right? So first we need to say that, no, because it's missing the arrowheads indicating that it's a parallelogram. Okay. Any questions on what is it that they're going to be trying to trick you with this section? Are you okay with first make it the statement that is a parallelogram, then you can use those properties that are given, okay? The next one. And at the bottom, we have to kind of like do the same thing. Okay, so here, let me do. Okay, so it says, for examples 3 and 4, can you determine that conclusion is valid? If not, then what else is necessary? What do you think about number 3? Well, let's put the tick marks first. Let's see what is it that is given first. So they're telling me that EF is parallel to GH. So put arrowheads. They're telling me that HE, it's parallel to FG. And then they're saying that EG is congruent to FH. EG, where's EG? Oh, that is the diagonals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're congruent, I can just say that that is given. So what can you say about that? Could that be a rectangle?
Yes.
Yes, this would be a rectangle because it's a parallelogram and the diagonals are congruent. So we can just say it is a parallelogram. Let me just make that smaller. I'm going to write on the white space. Number 3. It's a rectangle. So it is valid. How about number 4? What do you think about number 4? No?
Is that
Okay. It's not a parallelogram? Okay, so if I were to draw another of the same quadrilaterals, E, F, G, and H, and they're saying that the angle EFG, it's a right angle. So would that be a rectangle? Is that a rectangle? It doesn't say that is what?
it's a parallelogram?
That it's a parallelogram, that the both pairs of opposite sides are
Oh.
parallel. So this is not valid because it's necessary to say that it's a parallelogram first. Then, once they say that it's a parallelogram, then we can say that it's a rectangle. Okay? So this is not valid because both pairs of opposite sides need to be parallel. Okay, so you gotta say that first, and then you can conclude that with a right angle, then it would be a rectangle. Okay. Any questions about this part? Yes.
What if it's like, what if there's a question where it's showing as signs, it's being a parallelogram, but it's missing a property for it being a rectangle?
Okay, so if they just tell you that the both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, the only thing you can say that is a parallelogram, and that's it.
Oh,
So if they don't give you any special one, like one right angle, both pairs of diagonals are congruent, or diagonals are perpendicular, or two sides are congruent, anything else extra, then you cannot make it a special one. Okay, good question. Yes.
Can you still say not valid then? Not valid? Because if they're saying.
You would just say that it's just a parallelogram, and
Oh,
that's it.
okay.
Yes, okay? Okay, so